So good morning, David. How are you?
Good morning, Noah. I'm doing well. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. So this is an article from June 6, 2020, at 3:49 a.m. too.
Yeah.
So Google sued for $5 billion for tracking users even when those users are using incognito mode. Yet another reminder that your incognito browser is not as private as you believe. If you've been using or browsing through some porn on Google Chrome incognito window, assuming that the trail will be wiped clean the minute you exit it, you're in for some bad news. Turns out the incognito mode, which gives users the choice to search the internet without their activity being saved to the browser device, is not really all that incognito. That's some rough news for many people who use Google Chrome as their main browser, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Isn't porn one of the most searched things on the internet?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's like behind like YouTube or something. It's like
Yeah.
one of the top ones.
It's
I
one of the
mean,
top fives, I believe, from the last time I researched the data.
yeah. It's and also this is Google Chrome. All kinds of people use it. It's the default browser on almost every Android phone,
Yeah,
except for the ones.
it
Yeah,
really
except for
is.
like. Hmm?
I said it really is, since
Yeah,
since Google kind of has a monopoly, right?
yeah. That's the subject for another video, but yeah. Almost every Android phone, except for maybe some models in China where Google isn't as prevalent.
Hmm.
The most phones outside of China will use most Android phones will use Chrome as their default browser. Uh, Most Windows computer also use Google Chrome as their default browser, and they're a close second for Macs too. So, like, regardless to say, this a lot of people. This applies to a lot of people using incognito on Google Chrome.
That's actually huge problems, since a lot of people do use incognito mode, and we do expect for data to be wiped at the end of incognito.
Well, yeah, no, this like whenever I see this, it really makes me feel like, what's the point of an incognito mode if they're just like not gonna like is it just to hide it from your own history? But then like your ISP, your Google, they'll still have like logs of it too. Like it
Honestly,
is Google after
that's
all. So
disturbing, knowing that those companies still have access to those information, even despite we use incognito, while we
yeah,
expect to have none of the data collected at the end of us using incognito mode.
yeah. So I mean way I see it is that whenever you're using services like Facebook or Google or anything, like you admit these are good quality services, right?
Yeah, of
Like
course.
I feel like whenever you use your data, it's kind of like an alternative form of payment compared to like paying actual money, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Like I don't know how do you feel about that?
it does make sense. Like, if you want to have free services, the
Mm-hmm.
main way they can make income is by using data and then putting up ads, personalized ads on the platform.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's either that or you pay. It's the
like
main way of income, I'd say.
yeah, like I'm for example, let's take Instagram for an example.
Yeah,
Like millions of people use that. Like it's like extremely important for a lot of people. And Facebook too, like, there's some people, like, that's the only way to keep in touch with their family overseas and stuff, like, it's, like, priceless, basically, to have access to it too, and the fact that they can have it for free is, like, pretty sweet, if you get what I'm saying.
yeah. Isn't there an article about that? About something Instagram, you know, keeping
Oh,
deleting
yeah,
photos and
yeah.
messages?
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll get to that later, but yeah, but basically, yeah, so yeah, but basically my general idea for privacy is I'm okay with it as an alternative form of payment,
Yeah,
but the only time like where it actually like where it, um I don't like it basically, or like where I have a problem is if the company does one of two things. Either they they gather data illegally, like Google did with Chrome Incognito,
Yeah.
or if they gather data like even though you're not using their service. Because like I said earlier, I'm fine giving data because if I find their service helpful and using it a lot. But whenever I'm not using their service, I don't like how they still gather data for some. Like if you go over to the Microsoft Edge article,
Uh-huh.
are you on it?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So Microsoft Edge is stealing Chrome users' data. Now this also, if you scroll down, it also uh, Bing 8. I don't know how to pronounce that. A large bucket of. Okay, no, I can't. I can't pronounce that stuff. But when I heard that Chrome and Firefox users were accusing Microsoft of underhand data activities. Now, basically to um explain what this article is saying is that some people on, I think it was Reddit,
Yeah.
they found out that the new Chromium based Microsoft Edge, if you have it on your Windows 10 PC, I believe it only works. This only happens on Windows 10. But let's say you just have it installed and you don't use it, okay? And instead, like many people, you'll use Chrome or Firefox. What this Microsoft Edge browser does is that it's taking data from Chrome and Firefox,
I mean,
which
that's pretty. I feel like that's a red flag since Microsoft and Google are competitors, right? And Google Chrome
yeah,
is owned by Google, which means that Microsoft is technically spying on people, but also getting information from Google too that they would
yeah,
normally have access to.
yeah. I mean, yeah. The thing, the real problem I have with this is that you're not using their service. It's just there. Like, but yet you're using Chrome or Firefox because maybe you prefer those, and yet Microsoft is still finding a way to take your data.
Despite not using their services.
Yeah, like well, actually, I find this a lot. A lot of people are quick to point fingers at Google and Facebook for collecting data, and I mean it is bad. Like we saw inside the last article, like they still track you whenever you're under Chrome. But I feel like Microsoft is quite like they don't a lot of the flack they don't get, even though some of their practices are just as bad.
I mean, yeah, that is true. I feel like, let's be honest here. If it's something that people like, they're not going to point fingers at it. But if it's something that they actively hate, then they're willing to point fingers at it completely easily.
True. Well, the way I see it is, how we had the antitrust hearings.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and part of it touched on privacy, but I feel like the reason Microsoft wasn't mentioned like at all is because Bing, for example, collects it's like just as much like from its users, it'll collect just as much data, maybe even more, in fact. But because they're like Google is like way more popular, the entire like government, they just focused on Google and they turned a blind eye to what Bing does. And it's not just Bing. I'm not sure if you've heard this, but there's accusations of that Windows 10 could be spying on its users,
Well, I've heard
and
that
Cortana in
accusations many times
specific.
before.
Sorry.
I've heard that accusations many times before about
Yeah,
Windows spying on its users because its
yeah,
privacy is pretty questionable. It doesn't have the best privacy.
yeah. Because I know there's this YouTuber I watch. Okay,
Yeah,
he's a big advocator for Linux. Now for Linux, for those of you who don't know, is like Windows or Mac OS. It's like desktop operating system, but it's open source. Now I'm not going to go too much into it because that's going to be a video for another time. So open source means that what does many things, but one of the things that it means is that whenever you're I know I'm stuttering a lot. I'm trying to think an easy way to explain this. Like anyone can see the code inside an open source. Like Linux is completely open source, meaning that anyone like who has an understanding of code can go and look at what it is made out of. So if you use a Linux operating system, because open source goes hand in hand a lot with privacy. you can see exactly what information the operating system is collecting, and if you don't like it, you can even change it. Well, with Windows 10, you can't see like what it's collecting. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you just said that Linux is open source because it's open source. You have the ability to access the code, and you can edit the code if you're quite techy enough.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, so you can see what information is going in and out and
Mhm.
stuff like that too. Like
I'm
you can actually do some pretty cool things with Linux. Like I heard a story because you can modify just the copy on your computer without like modifying the repository at large.
mhm.
There's some people what they'll do is because it's extremely lightweight, so they'll put their entire computer, their basically like with all their files and stuff, onto a USB and then like whenever they go somewhere and they don't have their laptop, they just plug it in and they do what's called live boot it on the USB, so they don't install it. It just runs off the USB, and they basically have their entire desktop just wherever they go.
In a USB.
Yeah, in a USB. It's pretty crazy,
That
and they
is
don't even
actually
have to
quite
install
impressive.
it. Huh?
That's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if like Microsoft or Apple are ever gonna let us do that with Mac OS or Windows. But yeah, but open source is a conversation for another time. But anyways, where were we? Yeah, so I don't really like this that Edge is taking like from other browsers, especially I'm not sure if you noticed, but Firefox has tried to rebrand itself as a privacy based browser.
Has it? I mean, I don't. I personally don't use Firefox, so I don't have any information involving Firefox.
Oh, I don't use Firefox a lot either, but I know some YouTubers who do, and also not for I dabble into Linux a little bit, not a whole lot, and basically the new Firefox, because whenever Chrome took over, a lot of people really like Chrome, so they had to differentiate themselves. So they basically started taking privacy very seriously. They started blocking a ton of like trackers on the web, including those of Facebook. I believe Google too, although I'm not sure. And they started taking privacy super seriously. So it's kind of concerning whenever you have a privacy-based browser like Firefox here, yet Microsoft is still finding a way to take data out of it.
And if Microsoft still has the ability to keep getting data from Firefox, that leads me to believe that Firefox isn't that secure. If Microsoft can get info, then it practically means a lot of people can also do so.
Yeah. Well, I believe how like I don't even know how they do this, to be honest, because like Google and Microsoft do not like each other.
I mean, of
I
course, the
mean,
competitors.
yeah, like they'll collaborate on some things together, like Chromium and Android, because recently Microsoft came out with an Android phone, so they'll collaborate on some things together, but for the most part they don't like each other. Like they both have opposing productivity suites. For example, G Suite with like Gmail, Google Docs, Google Slides,
Yeah,
and then on the other hand you have Microsoft with Outlook, um, what's it called, Excel, Word,
Microsoft
PowerPoint.
Word.
Like yeah, like they're competitors in every single way. You also have like Google Drive versus OneDrive.
Mhm.
So yeah, so like obviously Google is most likely not happy about this. So the way that they found to get into both Google and Firefox is, I don't know, kind of concerning really.
I I read something. Well, this has nothing to do really much of privacy. Well, sort of does. But I read something about how Google would purposefully leave bugs in Microsoft's Edge. Like I've heard things. Like
Yeah,
I've
I
heard
heard
words
that.
about that.
Yeah, yeah, they also purposely leave bugs inside Firefox too. And it's basically to make it life inconvenient for those users, for they just end up switching to Chrome. But I think we should touch more on that inside the Monopoly
Yeah,
video or podcast that we're gonna make.
yeah. Mhm.
I think are you do you think we should move on or
Yeah,
do
of
you have
course.
more
Of course.
on this? Okay. Back to the Instagram thing you talked about earlier. Instagram caught secretly storing your deleted photos and messages. So I mean, tons of people use Instagram. I believe it's in the billions, if I'm not mistaken,
I
or
mean,
at
yeah,
least close to a billion.
I mean, a lot of people are using Instagram
Yeah,
from new generations to old generations. I mean, I'd say that
yeah.
it's probably gonna grow
Well,
bigger
mostly
than
young
Facebook.
generations,
Yeah,
but
like
I
it's
mean,
growing.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, something interesting. I'm not sure if this is still the case or how accurate this article was, but I read that article that even though Instagram has less users than Facebook, it generates more money than Facebook does because the users are on it more often.
I mean, yeah, like I'm just gonna throw this out there. Those who are practically more young are more
Mhm.
likely to get addicted and to spend more time on the device, which includes app that they use, aka Instagram.
Yeah. Well, I think really a lot of this, it turns down, well, it comes down to two things: human biology and also, interesting love gambling. So, you're probably thinking of gambling. I watched this whole documentary on it, where a lot of the apps on our phones are made to keep us addicted. So, for example, the motion to refresh on the page,
Yeah,
you like, go down and then it refreshes.
yeah.
That's the exact same motion that is used to pull down a lever on a gambling machine. If you think about it, too.
That is actually true.
Yeah, and there's pretty much the same result. You might win something like you'll see a new post from a friend or something, or you might just get
Some of those
some
same
posts you don't
posts.
care about.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's designed to keep you addicted. Same thing with YouTube. Like
I mean,
the
it's
AI is always giving you videos based on what you saw before. That is extremely helpful because then your feed isn't filled with junk. But it is addicting, super addicting.
I mean, it's how they keep the users on the app, right? And
Yeah,
the point of the social media apps is to keep users as long as possible on the platform, which is why they promote content creators that have a lot of view time, a lot of attention, a
yeah,
lot of audience, because it keeps the views
yeah,
on the platform as long as possible.
yeah. I mean, that's also why I noticed this. If I don't use Instagram for, let's say, over a day, maybe 2 days,
Hmm.
I'll start getting a notification. Because that's another way. If you like forget about it, like it'll send you a notification. It'll be like, this, and this person that you follow recently posted on their stories.
I believe TikTok also does that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they all use the same strategy, really.
Yeah, I mean, for YouTube, you have the notification system, so you can obviously
Mhm.
turn that off and on. That's
Yeah.
depending on if you want to get notifications.
Mhm.
But for
Yeah.
Instagram and TikTok, they you don't have that. They always give you notifications.
Yeah. Well, for me, in order if I'm not distracted,
Yeah.
because for me, usually when I don't often watch YouTube on my phone. Usually, I'll watch it on my iPad or, I mean, on my computer, but usually on my iPad.
Hmm.
So what I do to keep myself focused is that I turned off YouTube notifications on my phone, and they're only on my iPad. So if let's say I'm doing something on my phone, it won't distract me with YouTube notifications. I'll only see the notifications whenever I go on my iPad, which is good because I'd most likely be because using my iPad to to view content either which is either Netflix or YouTube or anime or like whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm already going on there for like to like just for fun, as in while on my phone I'll usually be doing something more productive.
I mean, that's the main reason why I always keep my phone on Do Not Disturb. It's because I
Okay.
know that a notification is gonna pop up, and then I'll get distracted from the main task that I'd be doing on my phone. Which because I
What
tend
is
to because I tend to use my phone a lot to be productive, to work on stuff. And because of that,
Yeah.
I don't want to get sidetracked by Instagram notification or YouTube notifications, which is why I always try my best to be on Do Not Disturb on any
What about
platform that I use.
what if someone sends you an important text though?
I mean, 9 times out of 10, they probably just call me if it's important.
Ah, yes. True, true. Okay, but anyways, to get back to the subject, so Instagram secretly storing your deleted photos and messages. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed, but in many countries, like I mean, Canada is one of them. So where we are, they're also in the U.S. and I believe most EU countries. A lot of them have laws that basically says, like for data collection, it basically says that the user has the legal right to download their data and see everything the company knows about them if they choose to do so.
I mean, most people do most people really download the data though?
No, most people don't. But if you wanted to, you have to. In most in the EU and Canada and US, probably some other countries too. But you have the legal right to do it if you want to do so.
That's actually quite nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is.
That reminds me of like this one YouTube video that I saw with you. I believe it was like
Mm-hmm.
how a YouTuber ended up deleting all the pictures from Google and all that, but yet they were still able to access it through links.
Yeah. Yeah. That's weird. But yet again, like to be fair, like okay, this does what I'm about to say doesn't apply inside Instagram's case, as you'll see.
Yeah.
But most companies, they'll say that it'll take them 90 days to clear from all the servers. Because, like, if you take Google, for example, there's a lot of data, and a lot of people. And then, they'll also have it backed up in case, like, let's say one of their data centers, like, gets, like, I don't know, destroyed by a natural disaster or something. They
Hmm.
have backups. So whenever you, delete something, it'll like whether it's a picture from Google Photos or I don't know something on YouTube, like whatever it is, they usually say that it'll take up to 90 days to completely remove it from all their servers, their backups, and stuff like that. Which I mean I think is reasonable enough since like like it's not you have to like look through all the servers and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But yeah, will you go on?
okay. Do you think for the service part, right, with the data, do you think they just all have it within a folder and then they because I know that Google ends up asking for your name, right? As soon as you sign up, right? They ask for your
Yeah.
name and all that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right. So basically, because of that, so basically because of that, um, do you think that they can't just search people up based? Do you think they can't just search people up based on their name, and then just pull up every single info they have on that person?
Well, I think it's a lot more like like it's a lot more complicated than that because for example like because this is like you're talking about like like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of computers that act like servers and your data is probably scattered all across them, for example.
I mean,
You
yeah,
get what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because it'll go to like the fastest server per se, which for us like is I don't even know where our closest one is, but uh yeah, but like they'll give it to the server, which is fastest, which would like not always, but usually be the one that's geographically closest to you. And like yeah, but like it's not always going to go to the same server. You get what I'm saying? So they
Yeah.
have to go through their entire network and also all their backups.
Okay. But
Yeah.
I feel like if
But
they would have to delete people's information, like data from the server, that the easiest way that they can possibly do it within 90 days, since I'm assuming that they have lots of information about us, right? Since they
mhm,
collect data a lot, quite a lot, right? The main way or the easiest way would have to be them having like a specific folder, and then all data just goes through there, which is why
yeah.
I feel like, which is why it's the main reason why they asked for usernames as soon as you sign up.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Well, at this point, we're just like exactly how they stored the data. We're basically just speculating at this point
Mhm.
because like we don't work at Google. I don't know. I don't think I haven't done much research on it. Have you?
No, no, no.
Yeah. So
I'm just throwing
but
out theories.
to stick to what like what we know now. So apparently, Instagram has allegedly been keeping deleted photos and messages because, like most companies, they'll give you a time window. For Instagram, I think it's like either like 30 or 90 days that they'll like to delete the data from all their servers. And but basically, some person used the download my data feature from Instagram. Okay, and inside the data that they downloaded, they found pictures that they had like posts and I think like messages and comments too that they had deleted over a year ago.
Yeah, yeah. It said that Sugat had said that.
Who?
Sogat. It says that Sogat has discovered content that he had deleted more than a year ago.
Yeah, which I mean is way over the 90-day limit because I think by law the limit is 90 days.
I mean, apparently Instagram says that it was a bug, right? It says that apparently Instagram says that Sugat discovered a bug that the researchers was paid 60K for the bounty work. So apparently it's a bug.
Yeah,
That was a bug, which means that
is it
if
though?
Sugat
That's
was
the
able
thing.
to find that, it must mean that all of the content that we had deleted more than a year ago is most likely probably still in the server.
Yeah, but isn't there? Did he? I'm not positive, but I heard some people say that he had to like sign a non-disclosure agreement or something. I mean, is that true or?
I don't see that anywhere on the
Yeah,
article. I'm not sure.
yeah. I don't know. If it's not in the article, I don't know. It might have been from an unreliable source. I heard. I'm not positive. But yeah. Yeah. I'm just reading the article right now. Okay. I just read this. The firm claims that the issue has now been resolved. Or yeah. I mean, it, Instagram isn't like, completely open source, so we'll just have to take their word for it.
It also says
But
that Twitter had a similar issue too.
who? Facebook?
Twitter.
Oh, Twitter?
Yeah.
Hmm. When was this?
I'm not sure. It says it in the lower part of the article near the end.
Uh,
I'm not sure. It doesn't
um,
say the date and when. I mean,
okay,
isn't Twitter based on I wouldn't say based on anonymity, but
well, it's based on news.
yeah, it's based on news.
Hmm.
But I'm pretty sure some people still do end up having private conversations on Twitter, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's Twitter direct messages, I believe. I mean, I only use Twitter like every blue moon,
Yeah, same here.
but I mean, yeah. Um, there's another. I mean, yeah. So like, this is really like the problem here is that a lot of these like I said before, I'm okay to give them data as long as they use the service, as long as I use their service. But whenever I'm not using their service and they still collect data, or would you yeah, or if it's being like obtained illegally, that's whenever I have a problem with it.
Okay, for me,
If you
the only problem that I would have, you know how like when you sign up for for services, they end up asking what data you want them to collect and all that.
yeah
If they collect any info that I specifically said no, that then that's when I cross the line. I don't want them to do that. Like that's when
yeah
that's the max. If you cross the line where I said don't collect this data and you collect it, then it's messed up.
well yeah actually that reminds me this is This is an article. It's a slightly older one from August 17, 2018. From the Global News. Google admits it may track your location even if you disable the setting. Have you opened yet? Do you have the tab opened?
Yeah, I have it open.
Yeah. So basically, here, just let's scroll down. Google
Let's
has
actually
revised
continue.
erroneous description of its website on how its location history settings work, clarifying that it continues to track users even if they've disabled the setting. I mean that's kind of messed up because the setting is extremely important, like understandably so.
Yeah, it really
Um,
is.
yeah, I mean, now obviously Google they'll use it like obviously for targeted ads. So let's say you have an ad for let's say a nearby grocery store and it's not some big chain. They can go to Google and be like, hey, I only want to show it to people within such and such city. You get what I'm saying? Inside the city where I'm located.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly, I really don't know what Google's doing with Google Maps and the location thing. That is quite
Yeah,
entertaining.
I mean, Google Maps though, they they also like to be fair, Google also uses the location to improve their service. For example, you know the real time what do you call it? The real time traffic status on Google Maps.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
They,
From what I've heard of it, it works based on people's phones. Right? So basically, if the phone is immobile while in the vehicle, it'll
hmm
basically calculate and know that there's most likely traffic. Which reminds me of this one story, right? Where a guy had multiple phones, right, in a little wheelie, right? And it was
hmm
filled with phones. And basically, he ended up strolling around his block, and it basically said that there was a huge amount of traffic because he's walking with multiple phones, where in fact the street was actually empty,
mm,
which shows that Google has access to multiple people's phones and their locations,
yeah.
which is how it's able to predict live traffic.
Well, I'm not sure when this feature is rolling out, but I heard okay on at WWDC 2020 we watched that together, and they announced a redesigned Apple Maps. You're like, oh, this is gonna it's gonna make Apple Maps good and able to compete with Google Maps.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you remember that?
yeah. I remember.
Yeah, and I remember a few days later Google, they basically like told Apple like, yeah, ha, you fucked. And then they started talking about cool features that they're working on. One of them I found particularly impressive because Google wants to stay number one whenever it comes to maps, obviously.
I mean, yeah. I'm gonna just point this out that Google Maps
hmm
is far better than Apple Maps so far.
Yeah, yeah. So whenever they heard this, that Apple Maps, could have the potential to rival them, they announced that they're working on a feature where it'll be for some cities. It'll roll out to some cities, and then more as time progresses.
Hmm.
But it'll show what the status of the traffic lights are. So it'll show if at a certain intersection the light is red or the light is green or yellow. I mean
Wouldn't they have
that's
to
impressive,
actually?
dude.
That, that
That's
is
impressive.
impressive.
Yeah, like I think it's only inside a few like major American cities as it is now. I'm not positive, but yeah, it's supposed to be rolling out to more cities as time goes on.
I feel like
Um,
a way that Apple could possibly compete with Google would be to roll out extra features, even though they don't say which will most likely catch people by surprise, and people would be happy because they added more features than they said.
yeah, but the only point is I don't know how well Apple would do it because if you think about it, part of the reason why Google Maps is so good is because of the user data generating. For example, like I'm not positive exactly how this light system will work, But I'd assume that if they see that you're near an intersection and you're stopped, then hold on, give me a second.
Hmm.
Section or at an intersection, you're completely stopped, then that's most likely how it would figure out that their light is red. Because that's the same way that that right now they used to figure out how much congestion there is on the on the roadways.
Yeah, and it'll most likely, well, since most people do end up having Google on the phone, right? It'll be able to
Hmm.
use multiple people's data and predict that there's most likely a red intersection
Yeah,
or a major traffic or anything like that.
yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, and also actually this one is very recent. Google inside it's inside like a ton of countries, and it's rolling out apparently this week to phones. I'm not sure if it's both iOS and Android or also Android. What's this? Do you have to
Yeah,
take a
give me a
break?
sec. Give me a sec.
Okay.
So
You want,
it's starting, but we can just edit this part out.
okay, wait, has it started?
Yeah, it's started, but we can
Okay.
edit this part
I'm
out.
gonna start the real one, and I'm gonna start like talking for real in three, two, one. Yeah. So yeah. So there's the traffic lights things that they're gonna add. To try get because Apple Maps has been trying to catch up to them, but now they're
Hmm.
doing this to stay in the lead. And there's also, if you go on The Verge, they reported that apparently it's actually rolling out this week, a new feature on Google Maps for a lot more detail. In fact, if you're on the tab, you can scroll down to the Iceland one, and you can move it from left to right. The left side is before, and then the right side is after. You can just see much more details and stuff like the topography and stuff like that.
It's actually
Um,
quite cool.
yeah,
I mean,
I
isn't
know.
Apple Maps quite detailed already? I mean, I know this is
Apple
Google.
Maps.
I know,
Apple Map?
yeah,
Okay,
Apple Map.
sorry.
I mean, the Apple vision of Google Maps. I know that one is quite detailed already, though.
Apple Map is already quite detailed, and they're making like high res street view. But the thing is that they're rolling out very slowly. As far as I know, I believe it's only inside some parts of the US, some parts of Canada, some parts of Ireland, and some parts of the UK. I could be wrong, but I believe that's the only place where it is. Well, this feature for Google Maps is rolling out to like most countries this week. And when I mean like almost like every country that has Google Maps.
That's actually quite impressive, though.
Yeah, it is. And I mean I did just this way faster than Apple did. But yeah, I mean it's pretty cool, especially if you go on the Morocco one, if you scroll down it
Yeah, yeah.
on the
I'm
left
already on
side,
it.
you can tell like okay Morocco, if you know your geography, it's like near a desert, right?
Hmm.
So I always assumed it was almost all desert, but then whenever you go on the right, you can see that there's more detail. It like especially in the north of Morocco, there's a lot more trees than I thought there were. For example.
It's actually quite impressive. Like, you can tell that it looks way much better than the previous version.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
It's
Yeah, but
actually quite nice.
yeah, but anyway, so Google they also use the data to make their service better. I to be honest, this particular feature I don't think it used any user data. I'm not positive, but I don't think it did. But that's regardless to say if you don't want it to track you, it shouldn't be tracking you.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who'd want to be tracked? I mean, that's.
I mean, yeah, and in fact, I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with iOS 14 betas.
Hmm.
I don't have it personally, but I've been doing like reading articles about it. Apparently, Apple, because out of all the tech giants, Apple is one that takes it more, like I'd say probably one of the most seriously. They've still messed up, which I'll get to later, but they probably take it the most seriously out of let's say like Microsoft, Google, and Facebook.
I mean, that's.
And
I'd say the reason because of that is because they try not to collect people's data as much as possible,
Yeah,
which is one of the reasons why Apple products cost a lot.
yeah. Well, because they're I know Amazon Alexas, for example, they'll often go on sale on Amazon, and if there'll be so little to buy that apparently Amazon actually loses money whenever you buy one, whenever they're on sale. And even whenever they're not on sale, they have super slim profit margins. Apparently, the reason for that is because they'll make that money back as you use it with all the data it collects. Because I know because there was this, you know how we were talking about your download your data earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
There was this YouTuber. He downloaded his data from Google, and inside his Google data, there was all the transaction or all the purchases he's ever made on Amazon. Because Amazon, most likely, what happened is that Amazon sold that data to Google. Like like yeah, so like Amazon, they can sell their hardware per se, well not per se, it is their hardware at a cheaper price, like sometimes even losing money because they'll make the money back in data collection. But for Apple, Um, because you probably already noticed, but Amazon, their investors don't really expect to make money. If you get what I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, when I was looking at the at at this one document that Jeff Bezos wrote at the investors, he literally
Hmm.
said something along the line of that he does expect to make money short term, but in a long term profit, that's where he expects to make money. Something along those
Yeah.
lines.
Or remember, looking at a graph, and according to that graph, it said that Amazon hadn't made a profit until the year 2019, and even in 2019, it was a small profit that they made.
Right. I remember. I think yeah. I think I saw that graph with you.
Yeah.
I ended up
But
seeing
yes,
that graph too, and I was like, which, and I was like, okay, that explains how my Amazon has been able to avoid taxes. It's because that
yeah, they don't.
they keep losing a good significant portion of money that they end up
Yeah,
writing that off on their taxes, and then eventually, as that collects 1 year, they can just pull those all those tax losses off from the taxes, and then they could get a tax-free based money. I mean, of course, they still paid obligated taxes, but
oh
certain
yeah, of
taxes
course.
they don't have to pay because of tax
Mhm.
loss that they
Yeah,
did.
I feel like we should more go more into this inside our Monopoly video that
Yeah,
we're gonna be making. We should save some that stuff for that. But anyways, Apple their investors aren't conditioned like Amazon's are. Apple investors they expect I think it's a 50% profit margin. I believe is what the number is. So and since Apple doesn't want to collect a ton of user data, that is one of the reasons why Apple products are more expensive than their competitors. I mean, there's other reasons too. Like, if, for example, let's say you buy a Samsung phone, Samsung doesn't have to patch all the bugs in the OS and stuff like that, since Google does the bulk of the work. They put their own skin on, but the bulk of the work is done by Google. While Apple, on the other hand, they have to like everything is or like the entire software of iOS is made in house.
that is actually true, and people expect Apple to not have any bugs. They expect a high-end product if they're gonna
Yeah,
spend
I
so much
mean,
money.
yeah, I mean, they still do have bugs. Like, well, I mean, macOS Catalina that was bug ridden. It's gotten better, but apparently the early versions of macOS Catalina, and this isn't even inside the beta. This is inside like the early versions.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so you'll have a request sometimes to sign into your Apple ID.
Repeat that.
Um, sometimes like, this will happen on your iPad, iPhone, Mac, but there'll be a pop-up to sign into your Apple ID.
Yeah.
Well, this apparently somehow this bug actually made it to like to the final version of macOS Catalina. Now it got patched later, but there kept being pop-ups to sign into your Apple ID. Like every like 10 minutes or like every like few minutes there'd be a new pop-up requesting you to sign into your Apple ID. Like there's screenshots of some people and there's like 9 of those pop-ups. Like so like, I mean that's a pretty annoying bug. If every 2 minutes you get a pop-up asking you to sign into your Apple ID. Like
Hmm.
I mean yeah, so it's and also iOS 13, well not as buggy as macOS Catalina, still had some bugs, but still, there are it's not as buggy as let's say Microsoft Windows, for example, which I believe is the buggiest operating system, if I'm not wrong.
It's honestly, that's actually kind of quite interesting though. Like overall, that's
Yeah,
actually pretty interesting though.
yeah. Like I'm not saying that like Windows 10 is bad,
Hmm.
but I believe it. I read an article. It has the most bugs out of any like mainstream operating system. Like whenever you compare it to like Mac OS or Android or iOS. But yeah. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So actually, I don't even remember what I was gonna say.
Okay, that's it's kind of unfortunate.
And,
Okay,
yeah, I don't remember. So I'll let you take the floor.
that reminds me of this one YouTube video that I actually have up right now. That I'll
Hmm.
send you the link to it right now.
Hmm.
It's basically this. And if you watch the video, so give me a sec.
Oh,
Give
it
me a sec.
is
Yeah,
okay.
just give me a sec.
Well, I'm,
Right. So we took a little pause to watch the video, and what was your thought
yeah.
on it? What was your thought on it?
Um. Well, first, I think we should put in the description in case some of the viewers want to watch the video too.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, but my thought is that I mean, it's accurate. Not gonna lie, it's accurate. Because it seems like Australia isn't the only place doing this, where they're trying to put a stop to end-to-end encryption. You have I know the UK has they either passed it or they're planning on passing it. I'm reading up on it now.
Hmm. Like honestly,
Yeah,
like if this
yeah,
bill, like I'm not very proud of that bill because it infringes on our privacies.
yeah. I mean, it's almost like illegal. In fact, the UK has either passed it or is planning on passing it. And I know right now there's a similar bill that's trying to go for U.S. Congress. Now, do you want me to explain it or do you want
Yeah,
you
you
to
can
explain
explain it.
it?
You can explain it.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, there's a technology out now that's called end-to-end encryption. It's been out for a while, and a lot of popular services use it. Not all of them, but a lot of them use it. Some famous examples would be WhatsApp, Gmail, um, iMessage is a really big one. Telegram, I'm not sure. That's more of used in Eastern Europe. But yeah, a WhatsApp, iMessage, Facebook Messenger can use it, although it's not on by default. I believe Snapchat uses it too. But anyways, what it does is that it um whenever you send a message to someone,
Hmm.
you and that person are the only people who can see the message because each of your devices have what's a so-called key to decrypt the message.
Yeah.
And so if it's caught by anyone in between, either the company that you're on, so like let's say I send you a message through WhatsApp, if somehow WhatsApp intercepts it, or the government, or let's say some hacker, they can't see it because it's encrypted, meaning that all they'll see is, let's say I send you a text, do you want to hang out? Do you want to go to McDonald's today or something like that? All they'll see is like random like numbers and stuff. And that's very hard to decipher, and it would probably take your computers months to find out what it actually is. Now, as you can like tell, governments who want to spy on their citizens obviously don't like this, since it makes it really hard for them to do so. Because for a simple message, like like, do you want to go to McDonald's? It would take them like a few months to figure out what it actually is.
And that's a good
Um,
thing. I mean, that's a good
yeah,
thing
it is a good thing. Yeah.
because
Um,
I mean, we
'cause-
we wouldn't want anyone having access to private conversations that we have with someone.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's almost like writing in code. That I think that would be a better example. It'd be like if I wrote like a letter to you, but it was like in code. So if someone was able to intercept it, they wouldn't be able to read it. If I mean, do you think that would be a good example?
Um, yeah, I feel like that's a good example.
Yeah. So anyways, so earlier, you know how I mentioned how the person who's sending it and the person who's receiving it has a key, and if anyone was to intercept it, they wouldn't have the key. Now, Australia, the UK, and the US, I don't think Canada is doing this. Well, at least not yet. But Canada, or no, sorry, not Canada, Australia, US, and UK, they're trying to pass laws which would basically force these companies to also send that key to the government. Now, this is a big problem because it will basically make end-to-end encryption useless. Now, the reason for this is because it now before, even if the government wanted to, they wouldn't be able to see what you were messaging. But if these laws pass and the companies are forced to give the government a key, then I mean, like
I mean,
they can see whatever they want, basically.
yeah. Plus, it also seriously hurts the companies at it too. It hurts
Yeah,
the. I mean, watch. Well, most people don't really trust the police, right?
the
And since
police.
the police are funded by the government, it basically
Okay.
infringes and hurts the relationship between the citizen and the government,
Yeah.
which would also cause a lot more problems for the companies and the government itself.
Mhm.
And because of that, most people would want to use the product less and just probably just meet up or talk a lot more in real life,
Yeah.
or use an application like Tor a lot more.
Yeah. Well, I know. Uh, I believe it's Telegram. Well, I'm just gonna search it up.
Hmm.
Yeah, Telegram is. I believe it's from Russia. I'm just doing some research on it, but you know how Russia is. I mean, is for all practical use a dictatorship.
Hmm.
So basically, this one guy didn't like it, so he made Telegram, which is pretty much WhatsApp, but it's more popular in Russia and in Eastern Europe, and it's basically an encrypted messaging service for the Russian government and other government because there's other pretty corrupt governments in Eastern Europe as well. They can people basically use Telegram for the governments cannot see what they send. Which is the Kremlin like hates this. They hate this. They tried to like order the person to take down the app or whatever. I think, or they tried to get the person to ban like the opposition. But the Russian government absolutely hates this, and that this is one of the reasons why it's so popular because it has end-to-end encryption. So even if the government or even Telegram wanted to, they wouldn't be able to see people's messages.
That's actually quite good though.
Yeah.
I mean, if the
And what
bill ends up passing, I feel like there's gonna be a lot more whistleblowers.
if what?
If the bill passes, I feel like there's gonna be a lot more whistleblowers. If you get what I mean.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the bill because I'm thinking has it already passed in Australia?
I'm actually not sure.
Because I know in the US it hasn't passed, at least not yet. In the UK, I'm not sure if it's passed, and in Australia, I'm not sure if it's passed. In Canada, though, I don't think we have such a law. But anyways, but even if it passes in the US, we're basically screwed either way because a lot of these companies that I mentioned earlier who use end-to-end encryption, like WhatsApp, Gmail, like Snapchat, they're all US companies. Most of them are based out of Silicon Valley. So
Hmm.
like even then, the government could like pressure them not to include it, like not only in the US but in other regions of the world as well.
So
So
the whole bill would create a mess
mhm,
because like it really does infringe on our privacies, and
yeah,
I personally don't like that, and multiple people wouldn't like that either,
yeah.
which would
Well, I
cause a lot of problems.
yeah. Well, I know. 'Cause the way that they're displaying it is that they're gonna use it to combat terrorism and like child online trafficking. Which, if we're gonna be honest, the bill probably will reduce a lot of terrorism and like online trafficking.
Yeah,
But that like it probably will, but it's just like if we're gonna be honest, it's just a cover because like terrorists and like a lot of people do illegal things on these end-to-end encrypted messaging services.
hmm,
But I mean, like obviously this will like like get rid of a lot of that. But the main purpose of this, which they're not telling you, is just for they can spy on their citizens.
yeah, of course. I feel like
Like
there would be that one person that'd be like, if you haven't, I don't know why. I feel like there'd be that one person in the comment section. They'd be like, why are you arguing? It's not like you have something to hide, right? And even if I
yeah.
did or did not have something to hide, I still wouldn't want anyone to have information and a conference that I have with those that are close to me.
Hmm.
Exactly. Like,
Well, it also brings me to this point. People are like, "Oh, if you don't have anything to hide, then why do you care?" But there is something extremely important to understand here. People are like, "Oh, if you don't have anything to hide, then it shouldn't matter." But the thing is that a backdoor for one person is a backdoor for everyone, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand this. That a backdoor for one person is a backdoor for everyone, because the government, like the Canadian government, U.S. government, UK government, like tons of governments have like they don't keep stuff very well. Like there's tons of leaks that come out of the government all the time. Wouldn't you
yeah,
agree?
there is.
Yeah, like it's not just the Canadian government or American government, but also like UK government, probably the Australian government too. Like this is all kinds of places. Like it leaks like crazy. Like governmented information is like having a bowl with a giant hole in the middle of it too.
It really is.
Like,
Which
like on and
leads
on.
which reminds me of something. Like, doesn't China have like loads of information based on their citizen? Like, which is why a lot
Yeah,
of the citizens end up using VPNs, which is basically illegal because it ends up encrypting
yeah.
practically almost
Well,
everything.
VPNs are technically not illegal in China, although they're thinking of making a law to make it illegal.
Yeah,
But I know China they pressured. I believe it was Apple, and they had to remove like 70 VPNs from the App Store or something.
yeah.
It was something really high. Yeah, but
Because if I'm correct, right, China does have information of their
yeah,
citizens.
yeah. Well, the difference though is that okay, China does do more tracking than Western countries. And the thing is that if the government finds something that they don't like in China, they can legally like like put you in prison or something. Yeah? And but a big difference that in China they openly do it. Like it's all like they make it known that they spy on the people. In the West, they try and do it more discreetly.
Yeah, but like still, at the end of the day, it's not really much different than what they'd be doing
Yeah.
in
Well,
China.
it is worse. It is worse in China
Yeah,
because
it is worse in China, but it'd be
like
practically quite similar.
the
And
um
since most people don't like China because they're practically a communist country,
well they
right?
are, but
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what you just said. They're practically a communist country.
yeah,
Most people would be like, what China is doing is fucked, which is also the
yeah,
same thing that they should be saying to American
yeah,
countries too, because it'd be also quite fucked because they'd be you know invading our privacies.
yeah, yeah. Well, as I was talking like okay, China. they their laws are like in in the West, like let's say you have a little bit of privacy. In China, you have like none at all. And the thing is that if the government does find something that they don't like in China, you don't have rights to protect you against it. So like if they find something they don't like, you're going to jail. In the West, at least you can like bring it to court or something. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So you do have like some assurance. So that is so in China it is worse. But I mean the West, like n- in my opinion, it's not going in the right direction.
do you
Um,
think the bill would pass?
what?
Do you think the bill is gonna pass?
I don't want it to, but unfortunately, I think it will. I unfortunately think it will pass. Cause but yeah, I mean it's just a sad reality. Cause I mean here we'll get to the Prism program in a moment, which was a entire program made by the U.S. government.
Hmm.
But you know that before that, you know that analogy about the bowl with the hole inside the middle of it,
Yeah,
about and how the government leaks data.
yeah.
The big problem with that is that like the government doesn't have a good like security record for keeping data. Um, and what I mean, actually, just recently there was a big CRA scam in Canada where a bunch of people got their basically tax accounts hacked, and then people were taking out COVID benefits under their name. Did you hear about that?
I actually did not. Wait, tell us more about that. Tell us more about that.
So basically, what ended up happening is that there's multiple different government websites,
Hmm.
and some of them got hacked and got a bunch of user data leaked. And then, since you know a lot of people, they'll use the same password for multiple accounts.
Yeah.
So they went on other government websites like the CRA, which is for those who don't know, Canadian tax or no Canadian tax revenue agency or Canadian Revenue Agency. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, you can apply for unemployment insurance and getting money, which it is important to note that you will need to pay back later. But so what happened is that these hackers hacked like I think it was like thousands or tens of thousands of accounts and took out COVID-19 benefits under their names. So now these hackers took a bunch of money and it'll be up to the victims, like the people who got hacked, to pay it back.
You,
Is basically how it's sort of similar to credit card fraud.
I mean, it is
But
basically fraud in general, though.
what? Yeah,
Right?
it is. It's
Yeah,
definitely
it's
fraud.
fraud in general.
But I mean, yeah. So the government isn't good at keeping the data secure. So the problem is that if you give the government all these keys to end-to-end encrypted messages, a hacker can basically come in and leak a bunch of it, and then tons of people's private messages will just be out there in the open on the internet. Which I mean, you probably agree, and a lot of people would, is not a future we want to live in. Where I mean, just a bunch of messages from like millions upon millions of people are just leaked out on the open on the internet.
Yeah, that's not that's a dystopia. That's a dystopia.
It
I
literally
don't
is.
want my information at the hands of
Yeah,
other people. Right?
yeah. It's
Why?
like yeah, it's the same reason. Do you know what the Five Eyes Alliance is?
Can you tell that for the viewers who don't know what it is?
Why do you know what it is?
I don't. No, I don't know what it is. You have to
Yeah,
call
so
me out, huh?
huh?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Uh, well, you said something about calling you out or something.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, you have to call me out, huh?
Yeah, so basically, what it is that this alliance, for sharing, like, information, really, an alliance of spy agencies, basically, between Canada, the UK, the US, New Zealand, and Australia. Okay,
Mhm.
and each single one of these, uh, how do you say it? Each single one of these, countries, they have their own security laws, which requires, companies to keep logs of their user data. Like it's legally required to do that. So that's why I hear a lot of people saying they're like, if ever you if you ever you're looking for a VPN to use, make sure it's not based out of one of the Five Eyes countries because they will be keeping logs on what you do because they have to by law.
That's a huge yikes right there.
It is. But yeah. So do you have anything else to say on this?
This yeah, no, I really don't. I mean, yeah, I really don't.
Okay.
I
So do you
just
want to move on? Oh,
I
continue.
personally think that the whole bill thing it's gonna
Yeah.
screw people up a lot, and the relationship between
Mhm.
governments and its citizens and tech companies.
Yeah. Well, because I know uh yeah, apparently this was a while ago. The government of the UK, they released a list, okay?
Hmm.
And because you gotta understand, with people who are technical, who know like a lot about technology, such as like you and me, we know what the real purpose of this bill is. We both know that like this is gonna be used to spy on people, right?
Yeah, of course.
And like most like people who are like like good like who understand technology well, they all know what the real purpose of this bill is going to be for. So what the governments are trying to do, like the government of the U.S., the UK, Australia, they're trying to prey on people who don't know the technology, and they're preying like on what people are scared most about. Like notice how they used child trafficking and like terrorism. Like those are like some of the worst crimes you can commit. Like I think we can like most people can agree on that,
I mean,
right?
yeah. What do you mean
Yeah.
most
So
people? I feel like all people would agree with that. That
true,
human
true, true.
trafficking, terrorism, and all
Yeah.
those other crimes are pretty much just bad.
Yeah, but they're like pretty much some of the worst crimes you can commit.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
period. So yeah, so what they're doing is that these governments they're preying on people who don't know a lot about how this stuff works, and then they're starting to tell them like, oh, it's used against terrorists and child predators in order to like to get them on decide like, oh, we should pass this, and yeah, like and this also reminds me of this time. Uh, basically the UK government they posted a pamphlet, and it was a bunch of apps that apparently it was addressed to parents. Interestingly enough, it's like if your kid is using any of these, he might be a hacker.
What was that?
Oh, there was all kinds. In fact, Discord was one of them.
Discord.
Yeah, I know Discord. It's actually quite funny. Discord is for hackers apparently. Yeah, and apparently they went on to explain, oh, there's like a lot of hackers who talk on Discord and they like, do joint operations to hack like, government agencies and stuff. And like, I mean, like we use Discord. I mean, we're using that right now to like, make this podcast. Like, we both know that's complete like doo
Yeah,
doo,
I
if you
mean,
get what I'm saying.
of course. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, there are probably possibly hackers on Discord, but
Oh
they're
yeah, no, there's definitely.
small minorities.
Oh yeah, like I mean, most of the people on Discord are just gamers.
I mean, yeah.
Like
I
we're
mean,
really
it is directed to gamers. When Discord was first created, or even if it's in its new update videos, it specifically keeps talking about how they created Discord for the point of gaming, but then it ended up
yeah,
expanding more than to just gaming. How it expanded to community more than gaming, such
yeah.
as reading books
I mean,
or
you'll
watching a
find
movie,
all
anything like that, or
you'll find
schoolwork.
all. Oh, sorry.
I said it expanded more than just gaming.
Yeah, yeah. like you'll find all kinds of different servers out there. Like for example, I'm part of some coding servers. I'm also part of some different like servers of YouTube channels, for example. You'll
Yeah,
find all kinds of different servers out there. Like some of them would be for people who, let's say, are interested in politics. Another server could be people sharing recipes if they're all interested in cooking, and you could have another one for people who really care about cars. Like you have all kinds of things out here. So
of
it's
course.
most yeah. So it's most likely that there will be a few servers out there for hackers, and like what they're saying probably does happen. But to say that, you shouldn't let your child use Discord because they're most likely a hacker, like that's like anyone who's ever used Discord knows that it's complete bullocks.
I mean, it's bullshit. It's bull
I
excuses.
I never
It's
thought
not
I'd
true.
use that word, to be honest.
Hmm?
I never thought I'd say bullocks.
Bullocks.
Yeah, or bullocks, I don't know.
Hmm. I mean, but like overall, I mean, wasn't it like? Do you think TikTok was on it
On what?
on
On
the
Discord?
pamphlet?
Oh, no, no, this was before TikTok was popular.
Ah, because I like
Discord? Okay, continue. Sorry.
yeah, okay. Because like I know that TikTok is gonna get banned with data because of data
Yeah.
reasons and
Yeah.
privacy infringements.
Hmm.
Because because since most people end up fearing the Chinese government because of
Yeah.
spying, I
Mhm.
feel like that's kind of just excuses because most people. It's like I'm gonna be honest. The main reason why TikTok is getting banned is because the U.S. government is feeding into the fear of people that the Chinese government is spying on them, or you know
Yeah.
they're
I
feeding
mean,
onto them. Like the main reason is because it's China, right?
yeah.
It's China, which basically gives incentive to American companies to make their own version of TikTok, which is what they have done. Is real, which is basically TikTok but on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, I know, because okay, first of all, I want to make it clear, like we obviously don't support China. It's really like messed up over there.
Yeah,
Like a lot of stuff, especially lately, like with imprisoning Uyghur Muslims in what's basically concentration camps.
I mean it is a concentration camp.
Yeah, and their social credit system, which is literally something taken out of like the Black Mirror movie. There's a lot of messed up things, but to say that you're banning TikTok because of data collection and you don't want to go to the Chinese government, like
That's
if we're
bullshit. I mean,
well, if we're gonna be honest, TikTok probably is sending data over to the Chinese government. Like if we're gonna
possibly,
be
maybe.
honest,
I mean,
they
I wouldn't
most
know,
likely
but possibly. But like,
yeah.
if that's the reason, then loads of people are quite hypocrites because those very same people who think that way most likely uses Google, Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah, exactly.
like
Which I mean,
like
all
which are
collect
companies that
the same amount of
collect
data.
loads of data.
Hmm?
Which I said, which are companies that collect loads of data.
Yeah. So like you're gonna get your data collected whether you use TikTok, Instagram, or like Google. Like it doesn't matter.
I think it's safe to assume that any big tech company collect data.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one
Yeah.
of the main reasons why they're big because they collect the data. They have the ability to improve based on user info or based on
Yeah.
users'
Exactly.
input.
In fact, yeah, like almost every artificial intelligence out there, like Google Assistant, Siri, I mean, the recommendations for your YouTube videos, even, or that whenever you have friend recommendations on Facebook, they all grow on data. The more data you give it, the smarter it gets. Like pretty much. So like that's another incentive for them to collect more user data is just to grow their artificial intelligence more to keep you online for longer to make more money from monetizing your data.
I mean,
Um,
and to be honest, it's actually quite smart.
it is, it is,
But at the
but I
same
mean,
time, there's a limit to it. I don't want all kinds of info getting
yeah,
into their hands.
of course. And especially there's some things like that just should be private, like messages, like end-to-end encryption. Like WhatsApp, for example, is an encrypted service. Like you shouldn't be able to see everyone's like WhatsApp messages or whatever. You get what I'm saying? Like, that shouldn't just be like out in the public.
I mean, if it was, no one would want to use WhatsApp.
Yeah, yeah. But the problem with these laws is that it's going to be banned for all the companies. So like any like you won't have an option to use something that is encrypted unless if you literally change countries. Like, okay, I just thought of this. Okay, think about how funny this is, okay, David?
Hmm.
So you know how I said that Telegram operates in Russia, okay, for the government can't see what you're sending?
Yeah.
Imagine this future, okay? Me and you, we live in Canada, or yeah, like Canada, I don't believe during the process of passing a bill like this, at least not yet. But let's say like there was a law like that in Canada, okay?
Okay.
Or even if we were inside the U.S., if we're inside the U.S. and a law like this passes, like let's say we were American citizens who lived in the U.S., okay? So the U.S., like obviously is a free democratic country. Like
Yeah.
we know of human rights and everything, right?
Hmm.
But me and you can't have a private conversation that's encrypted. We'd actually have to move to Russia, which is a dictatorship, which like oppresses its people. Can you still hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I hear it. So basically, you're telling me that Russia, which is a dictatorship, which oppresses its people, are gonna have better rights in terms of privacy
No,
than
I mean
the
I'm just saying it's ironic because me and you, let's say we lived in America, we can't have an encrypted private text conversation. We'd actually have to go over to Russia and get Telegram on our phones over there in order to have it. Which I mean, if you think about it, is kind of comical to be honest. Like
yeah,
you're
it's
inside
ironic.
America,
It's
which
ironic.
I mean, yeah, like you're inside America, which prides itself on freedom and democracy and all that stuff. Yet you can't have a private text conversation. Whenever you go to Russia, which is a very like brute force dictatorship country, but over there you can have an encrypted like conversation. It's kind of ironic to be honest.
It is, and
Like
and that scares me because if
yeah,
Russia, right, if Russia has the ability, to say like no to that bill, right, to not want to have a bill and basically have citizens have their own privacy, right, versus like the democratic country such as the United States or Canada, then that poses a huge problem because it clearly shows that Russia, which is a dictatorship country, has the ability to know that its citizens should at least have the right to privacy compared to American countries that
yeah.
pride
Well,
itself on freedom.
I get what you're saying, but to be honest, I don't think that's the reason. I think the only reason Telegram is still in Russia is because they haven't gotten around to banning it yet. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see.
Because I mean, any authoritarian region, like country, whether it's China, Russia, North Korea, anywhere, most of the time they'll ban they'll ban stuff that they disagree with. Now this isn't inside all countries. For example, Vietnam. If you compare Vietnamese internet and Chinese internet,
Oh,
there's a
they're
lot
quite
of
different.
differences.
Yeah.
A lot, yeah. And you gotta understand, they both have extremely their government structures and or no, their government structures are pretty much the same. They both have one party communist dictatorships. Yet, if you go in China, no Google search, no YouTube, no Facebook, no Instagram. You go into Vietnam, on the other hand, you cross the border from China to Vietnam, suddenly you have access to Google and everything that comes with it. So search, drive, photos, whatever. You have access to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Now, of course, it's not 100% free. Like for example, I believe on Vietnamese YouTube, you cannot see videos which are critical of the Vietnamese government, but you still have a lot more internet freedom in Vietnam than in China.
Yeah. That is true. I mean, isn't like isn't um Facebook or yeah, I'm pretty sure isn't Facebook banned in China?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I have a Vietnamese friend, right, who literally
Mhm.
has access to Facebook,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
which shows that China, bans multiple applications. But despite Vietnamese also being a communist country, also has
Hmm.
the ability to give users its own like
Yeah.
has the ability to realize that its own citizenship, its own citizens should have the ability to still enjoy American applications.
Yeah. Now, I also think this is important for us to put in. I was going to mention it earlier, but I forgot. We don't support the Kremlin, okay? Because we were saying like in Russia, like you could go there and like get pilgrim. We don't support the Russian government. We don't support the Kremlin, right?
Hmm.
Like it's a dictatorship, and it'll be just as nasty and have all its human rights violations just as much as any other dictatorship. Like you get what I'm saying?
Of course, I do.
Yeah, like I mean, like you can just look at like what's happening, like like all the violent, like like imprisonments of people, like for doing peaceful protests and stuff. Like Russia is not like a very free place, like especially whenever you compare it to the West, which we are bashing a lot, but we do have a lot more rights here in the West than if you went to Russia or China. So I just want to get that disclaimer out of the way. Like we don't support the Kremlin, okay? I
Right.
just thought it was in.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
It's good that you pointed that out because maybe
Yeah.
some people in the comments would have thought that we support dictatorships or communist countries.
Yeah. No, like no, we don't.
Yeah,
Like
you
we
know.
don't want anyone spying on us. Is pretty much how it works.
Yeah,
Whether it's a
the whole
yeah, whether it's
conversation, the whole topic today is privacy, right? And we
yeah,
basically just don't want our privacy out there, which is the whole
yeah,
discussion of today's topic.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Well, I know. Yeah. So as I was saying, China doesn't let a lot of Western countries inside their. Oh shoot! I just looked at the time. We're gonna have to wrap this up soon.
Oh shit, okay. It's
Uh,
1:12.
because I have to be gone by about 1:40. I don't know. We still have time. So basically, as I was saying, uh, in China, yes, they ban a lot of Western companies because they want to keep like a lot of stuff secret, right?
Yeah.
But also on the other side, it's because they want to encourage their own companies from growing. Like for example, have you heard of Baidu?
Baidu?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, Baidu is Chinese Google, pretty much. Like it's literally a straight off Google knockoff. Like if you search up Baidu and you go on images, like it's literally a Google knockoff.
That kind of
Like
reminds me of Alibaba,
yeah,
which is basically the Amazon version of China.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Like I don't even know if Amazon. Like I know Google. Like as far as I know, there's only two Google products that are allowed to be like that are legally allowed in China. And those are Google Maps and Google Chrome. But Google search isn't even allowed. Like if you use Google Chrome in China, the default search engine there will be Baidu. Like like not even Google search is allowed in China. So um basically yeah, so Google sorry, China bans Google not only because they want to keep stuff like secret from their citizens,
Hmm.
but they also want companies like Baidu to grow. They ban like companies like Facebook and WhatsApp, which is a subsidiary of Facebook.
Didn't they
They
also
ban
ban
what?
YouTube and Twitch?
What?
Didn't they also ban YouTube and Twitch? Because I know
Yeah,
there's
they ban.
multiple Chinese versions of Twitch and YouTube. I've used them
Yeah.
before. I mean, they're
Oh,
decent.
you use
It's
that?
yeah, I've had used them before because I have Chinese friends that's from China, and
Okay.
they use VPNs to communicate with me.
Okay.
And sometimes I occasionally try to help them improve their English by talking in English, and vice versa. Sometimes, well, last time I was learning Chinese, I was
Hmm.
trying my best to talk to them in Chinese and trying to improve my Chinese Mandarin.
Yeah.
But like to
Yeah.
do so, we had to use VPNs, and
Yeah.
YouTube did not exist. YouTube or Twitch and all that did not exist for them.
yeah, pretty much. And yeah, so they do it in order to like like censor their own like like what their citizens can see, but it's also to give their local companies like basically a monopoly inside the Chinese market per se. If you get what I'm saying, like Baidu would not be as big as it is if Google was allowed in. Same thing with Alibaba; it would not be nearly as big as it is if Amazon was allowed in. Although I'm not sure, is Amazon allowed in China?
I'm actually not sure about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I do know Alibaba is quite big in China though,
yeah,
so there's a
and oh, same thing.
possibility that's probably banned in China.
Well, what's probably banned?
That there's a possibility that Amazon is probably banned in China. We're not sure about
Yeah,
that though, since
and I
Alibaba is
mean,
quite big.
yeah, and I know WhatsApp is banned in China,
Mm.
and like let's be honest, if WhatsApp was in China, WeChat would probably not be as big as it is, or not nearly as big as it is.
I mean, like the way that I view WeChat, I feel like it's quite similar to Apple's messaging app.
Yeah, it is. It's a messaging app, but actually, this is something really interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
um, you know how I said that Apple isn't as bad as some of the other tech companies?
Hmm.
That's not to say that they don't have their faults. For example, you know how there's certain in order to be accepted on the App Store, there's certain guidelines you have to follow, right?
Okay.
Like like whenever it comes to privacy and like what you can do with users and stuff like that. Like there's certain criteria your app has to respect in order to be allowed on the App Store on Apple devices.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that okay, first you gotta understand in China, WeChat is super important.
Like
Like
what?
literally, WeChat is super important in China. Not only it's a messaging app, but also I'm pretty sure people they have like you can book reservations on there. I'm pretty sure in order to pay for public transit, so like the bus or the train,
Oh yeah,
you
I've
have
seen
to
that. I've
use
seen that so
WeChat.
many times.
Like it's basically like a Swiss Army knife. Like it's an app which is which basically does the same thing as a Swiss Army knife. It has all kinds of different functions.
You know,
So
it's pretty. You know, like I tried to get WeChat on my phone once. It's actually quite
mhm,
hard to install it on my phone for some reason.
that's interesting.
Like by that I mean like for me to access it, I had to like literally search all over the internet just to try to get WeChat.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but afterwards
Well,
I was
it
like I ended up giving up and I was like I ended up basically forcing my friend just to use a VPN and get on Discord just
well,
to
it's an
have a conversation with them.
it's an yeah, it's an extremely Chinese app if you get what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
by that, what I mean is that it's only like the only people who really use WeChat are one people who live in China
yeah.
and B people who like who live overseas, like let's say in Canada or the US, but they use the app to talk to family members who live in China. Those are like the only two types of people who use WeChat. And I mean, yeah, like it's so important in China that basically a lot of people, if their smartphone can't, if they're going to buy a phone, and for some reason the phone can't run WeChat, they're just not going to buy that phone. It's just that simple.
It really is.
Yeah. So basically, from uh, there's a report that Trump is thinking of stopping American companies, including Apple, from doing business with WeChat. And now they haven't done it yet, but they're thinking of doing it. And apparently, they did a survey in China, and it was 95 to 96% of iPhone users said that if they can't access WeChat on their iPhone, they'll switch to Android. 95 to 96%.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. Isn't Apple quite? Wait, I'm not sure. I can be wrong, but isn't Apple like, very dominant in the Chinese market?
No, they only have about a 10% stake because a lot of people in China cannot afford an iPhone. But okay, China has a huge population, as you know.
Yeah,
So 10% of China of the Chinese market is still a lot of people. even though they only have 10%, China's like either their biggest or second biggest like income of revenue, if you get what I'm saying, for the iPhone.
Of course, and and that means that the revenue is gonna tank a lot if
Yeah.
that
Well, like
happens.
95 to 96%. Like that's almost everyone. Like that just goes to show how important like WeChat is to people. If
And
you get what I'm saying.
exactly, which means that something like that shouldn't pass. They should still be allowed to be able to communicate with other Chinese companies.
Yeah. But what I was gonna get at earlier is that apparently one of the reviewers on the App Store, or no, not one of the people who used to work at Apple and reviewed apps on the App Store, apparently WeChat does not. This is all allegedly, of course,
Hmm.
but he claims that WeChat does not obey App Store regulations, and because Apple wants to do business in China, they basically turn a blind eye. So like WeChat does not follow Apple's regulations for the App Store, and Apple just kind of like lets it be.
I mean, that makes sense. For example, like
Yeah,
if you want in China, if you want to, you know, do business in China, you have to have a Chinese company or work or have a partnership with another Chinese company, just as
yeah,
Tencent, right? Tencent
yeah,
is a monopolistic company,
yes,
but a lot of people still still work with Tencent because it allows them to, still do business in China.
yeah. But also, I want to make something clear. Whenever you said that it's smart, we're talking about a bit from a business standpoint, not a moral standpoint.
Yeah, of course.
Uh, yeah, because I mean, like making WhatsApp, play by its own rules and not by the App Store rules, and like people go to the App Store because they trust the process. But whenever you have WeChat that's defying it, like it's not very good morally, but for business wise, it is very smart. I just want to clear that up for people watching.
Of course.
Yeah,
Do you? I feel like we spoke a lot about the Chinese market. Like, do you want to switch
yeah.
subjects?
Well, it is extremely important. Like you said
Yeah.
earlier, you either have to be a Chinese company or partner with one. Like for example, Spotify. Tons of people use it. And you spoke about Tencent.
Hmm.
Tencent Music is, I believe, the either the third or fourth most popular music streaming service in the world. And literally all it is a partnership between Spotify and Tencent to make a China specific music app. And if you think about it, it's I think it's like the fourth, it could be the third, but I'm pretty sure it's the fourth biggest music streaming app in the world. Yet it operates almost exclusively in China. Like I mean, that's pretty insane if you think about it. They're the fourth biggest in the world, yet they only operate in one country.
Yeah, exactly. And it just shows how Western countries or Western companies need the Chinese market to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unhealthy relationship if you think about it. Because in order to do business with China, you have to obey all these, immoral rules. Um, you have to you have to obey all these immoral rules in China. Yet, if you don't, then uh, they'll just
Exactly.
not let you do business.
That exactly, and that reminds me of that. Remember that Hong Kong protest
Oh
where,
yeah,
like, with the whole free Hong Kong type of stuff, like
yeah,
where multiple people were mad at companies that would, you know, that did business in China, like such as
yes.
Blizzard and all that. And I was like, I like, I was like, yeah, I agree, it is fucked up, but I do not blame them because the China market is a huge portion of the
Yeah.
income.
But still, though, I mean, if I owned a company, I would not do business in China
Yeah,
just
of
from a
course,
strict moral
of
aspect.
course, I agree with you for that. Like, like,
I would not do business in China.
if I had a company, like, I tried my best to make it based on morals.
Yeah, of course. Like something really controversial was done by Apple actually.
Hmm.
You know, during the this was during the earlier stages of the Hong Kong protest.
Yeah.
Someone made an app and it showed where the police were inside Hong Kong, where there was active police vehicles, and Apple took it down from the App Store just to please the Chinese government.
Honestly, like exactly, morally that is fucked up. But at a business standpoint, you can see where they
Yeah,
came at.
yeah. It is extremely screwed up though.
Yeah.
Now, to go back, because we gotta wrap this up soon.
Yeah.
Um, the final point I want to talk about is the Prism program.
Hmm.
Do you know what that is? The Prism program
Didn't
with
you say it was basically a collection of the top big tech companies?
hmm
How we have to, give the government a quote unquote key to their information?
kind of, yeah. It was well, it was you know Edward Snowden, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's a snowblower. He
Yeah.
snowball.
I mean,
He ended up
here
snowblowing.
you can explain if you want to the
Yeah. So
people what.
basically, Edwin is basically someone that worked in the NSA, I believe, right? And
CIA, I think it
CIA.
was.
It was either the
I'm
CIA
not
or the
sure.
NSA. Basically, he called out multiple huge tech companies, the government. He basically called out a lot of people and basically exposed their wrongdoings. And
Yeah,
basically, he exposed that they were collecting people's data and infringing on their rights.
yeah. I mean, in fact, I think I sent you a list here. Um, I literally just Googled what companies were in Prism, and it says um, the documents identified several technology companies as participants in the Prism program, which was, like David said, a huge surveillance program. Which it wasn't only in the U.S. It also spied on people across the world, like
Yeah, of course.
Canada, UK. I mean, Italy, like everywhere in the world. But the companies who were involved in this was Microsoft, Yahoo. I mean, Yahoo isn't as big as anymore, but it was back then. But yeah, Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Facebook. I don't know what Paltalk is. But also YouTube. I'm not sure what AOL is either.
It's imagine the older version of Yahoo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's before it was AOL,
Also,
then Yahoo kind of came in, and then Google came in.
mm, yeah, and then also Skype and Apple participated in it. And I'm not positive about this last part, but I believe there's also some cell companies that took place in it, like Verizon and AT&T, for example. Although I'm not sure about that last part. But
Honestly, but yeah. So basically, Prism had a lot of huge tech companies a part of it.
yeah, and basically, I feel like the reason why end-to-end encryption became popular in the first place is because whenever all these companies were exposed and Prism was disbanded, pretty much, a lot of people lost trust in these companies, so they almost had to put in place encryption to show people like even if you don't trust us, we can't see what you're doing. But now the Australian, UK, and US government are basically making rules to make that irrelevant now.
And I feel like, yeah, I know I said this before, but like if they end up putting an end to the encryption thing with the bill, I feel like there's gonna be a lot more whistleblowers, kind of like
Yeah.
Edwin.
hmm And I mean, yeah, like this is a very dystopian future
Exactly,
if you
and
think
that's
about
a
it.
future I don't want to be a part of
No.
because
Um.
it's scary knowing that
Yeah.
millions of people could possibly have information on you or have eyes or be able to read your combos if they suspect, quote unquote, any wrongdoings. And
Yeah.
like they
Well,
can
I
literally
feel.
just pull that out and pull that card on anyone for any dumb reasons.
Yeah. I mean, like Apple, like I said, while they are more focused on privacy than other companies, they have screwed up in the past. Like Prism, for example, is a big, like big screw up. all the concessions they've done to the Chinese government is another one. And once I think this was a few years. I think this was like over a year ago or something. But
Mhm.
it turned out that Siri,
Yeah.
without users' knowledge or even consent, they were sending Siri recordings to a third-party company to analyze. Now they claimed that it was to improve Siri's performance, which, let's be honest, it probably was. But like, it was a third party. This was even people at Apple, and even if it was, it would still be messed up. And they do it without the user even consenting or knowing about it.
And honestly, that's scary. Knowing that reminds me of this one Congress thing that I saw where Congress ended up asking Google if
Mhm.
if Google knows or pays attention to people's conversations.
Yeah.
And then like at first I feel like most people ended up laughing at that, right? But
Hmm.
honestly, if it was actually true, that's scary. Knowing that even if you didn't ask for Google or you didn't say hey Google or
Yeah.
hey Siri or anything like that, they still have access to everything conversation and it's always recorded.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like especially Google Home and stuff. Now, personally, I don't believe that happens,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. Like, I personally don't think that's what's happening, but it is possible that it could be happening. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wouldn't surprise me.
Like
Um,
you doubt it does happen, but like if it did happen, you're not surprised.
yeah. Well, there's also this other point I want to get to, where even encryption, can that even be trusted? Because I read this article. Okay,
Hmm.
I don't exactly remember what it was, but it was about WhatsApp. Okay, as you know, Facebook acquired WhatsApp like quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, it's all end to end encrypted, and like it's encrypted. Like everything on WhatsApp that you send is encrypted. Okay, but something very curious that happened is that you know what an acquihire is?
Yeah, yeah. Acquiring?
Yeah. What?
Yeah, I said yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like, acquihire. I mean, I'll explain it for the people who don't know, but acquihire is this tech company. They'll yes, they're interested in the technology, but they're also interested in what else the people who created it can do. So like Facebook did an acquihire for WhatsApp, so they bought WhatsApp itself. At the same time, they also hired the makers of WhatsApp. And yeah, so then like Facebook acquired WhatsApp, and they're like, oh, it's all safe because of end-to-end encryption. But something really interesting that happened is that apparently the I think it was like two people, and it could have been more, but the original makers of WhatsApp ended up quitting Facebook because they did not agree with how I think it was how they users data was stored for WhatsApp or something. Something
Wasn't it the
along those
same thing for
lines.
Instagram?
Yeah, no, but wait, did the developers for Instagram leave?
Like, cause I remember right doing the whole recent Congress thing with Apple, um, Facebook, and Google and Amazon, right? How
Yeah,
it says that the founders of Instagram said that they got threatened by Facebook
yeah,
if they didn't sell the app to them. They'd make their own and all that,
yeah. Hmm.
right? I'm not sure, but like I remember like knowing that that's kind of scary. Knowing that
Yeah.
those very same people who are willing to threaten other companies have our
Mhm.
data.
Yeah, yeah, and also yeah, this is also on Facebook, and specifically for WhatsApp. Okay, I read this article. Okay, now I want now this article is just a theory. Okay, I want to make that really clear. It's just a theory, but the theory goes that because how does Facebook make money off of WhatsApp? The only obvious way would be WhatsApp Gold, but I don't think that many people are using WhatsApp Gold. If we're going to be honest,
I'm pretty sure that's probably a small minority.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I
So
don't know that was a thing, to be honest.
yeah, exactly. You didn't even know that was a thing. But like yeah, so that just goes to show how little like people use it. But basically, because it's all encrypted, but yet again, like this part that I'm about to say is a fact. The original creators did quit Facebook because they did not agree how user data was being stored by Facebook. So basically, the guy who wrote this article, he came up with a theory because I don't know if you noticed, but your apps on your phone can talk to each other. Okay,
What?
Like, the apps on your phone can communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you probably already knew that, but so basically, what this person, what their theory is that the person who wrote the article that I read, their theory is that WhatsApp is because you know how first of all it has to create the message, then it encrypts it.
Mhm.
Like the message first has to be created, then it gets encrypted.
Yeah, of course.
So what this person's theory is that right after the message is created, before it gets a chance to get encrypted, it'll send a copy of that message over to the Facebook app on your phone,
Mhm.
and then it will then be stored there.
Yeah, I see what you're coming at.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an
So I mean,
interesting theory. I mean,
there's no
I don't know
proof
if
of
it's true,
that,
but that is an
but
interesting theory.
huh?
I said I don't know if it's true, but that is an interesting theory.
Yeah, and also this next part is something that I personally observed. During one of I think it was Mark Zuckerberg's first hearing on not Parliament Hill, Capitol Hill.
Mhm.
The the one of the senators or like representatives, they asked him, does Facebook keep track or like does Facebook see the messages that people send to each other on WhatsApp? Okay,
Mhm.
he specifically asked the guy like, can Facebook see what people are sending to each other on WhatsApp? And what Mark Zuckerberg said, he said it's encrypted, and he explained what encryption is. Okay, now I mean, yeah, he said it's encrypted, and they explained what it means. But he never said no. All he said was that it's encrypted, which even let's say this guy's theory was true, the one who made the article where they're sending decrypted versions to Facebook, the app. Mark Zuckerberg, because he said it's encrypted, but he never specifically said no, he would technically be saying the truth. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to the Congress thing, I feel like the only people who should be asking, big tech companies questions are people that
Mhm.
know about tech.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree about that. Yeah,
Th-
yeah, I completely agree.
Like I really
Because I mean,
like sometimes let's be honest here. Sometimes the Congress says some questionable questions,
yeah, yeah,
and it's like,
yeah,
Really? Yeah,
yeah. I
that's
feel
what you're gonna ask them?
like they should ask, like they should have people who are who like know about technology asking them the questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um.
some Congress people, did ask some pretty good questions
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
to big tech companies, but like a portion of them end up asking questionable questions because
Yeah.
they're not knowledgeable about tech, which is why
Yeah.
I feel like 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 those congressmen and women should at least get a survey or get questions from
Yeah.
tech
Of course.
individuals first.
Well, I know on the first Zuckerberg trial, one of the congressmen literally asked Facebook, "How do you make money?" Or no, no, sorry, he asked Facebook. He asked, "Is your service free?" Then Mark Zuckerberg's like, "Yes." And he's like, "So how do you make money?"
What?
Yeah. So on the first Zuckerberg like trial, which was a few years ago, one
Hmm.
of the congressmen he asked Mark Zuckerberg, "Is Facebook free?" Then Mark Zuckerberg's like, "Yes." And he's like, "Okay, so how do you make money then?" Like, that was literally his questions.
I think exactly. I feel like they should at least do research before talking
Yeah,
or asking
yeah.
questions.
Oh, I completely agree. Yeah. No, but
I like how certain people say there are no dumb questions, but there are some dumb questions out there.
yeah. Okay.
But honestly, I mean, I'm not bashing the congressman for asking that questions. I mean, if I
Yeah.
didn't know anything about Facebook, maybe at first I do research about it,
Hmm.
and if I don't see anything pop up online about it, then maybe I'd ask that question to
Yeah.
know.
I mean, the question like, is it free? Then how do you make money? Like that. That's easily accessible information.
Exactly. Like it was kind of a wasted time. It was a wasted question.
Yeah. Okay. We kind of gotta wrap this up because I
Yeah.
really gotta go soon. So, a final note to end this on is I think we're actually going to be talking about this in either a next podcast or the next few. But the only reason to fight against this, or the only way to fight against this dystopian future, would be to start using a lot more open source stuff. Like for example, the browser I use is a Brave browser, for example, and it is 100% open source. Like you can look at literally every all the technology the company has on GitHub, on like the browser for like all the operating system, or I don't know, but the company is 100% open sourced. Like you can look at the browser for like Mac OS, Android, like Windows, the iOS version of their own cryptocurrency. Like it's 100% open sourced, and yeah, like at that point you can really look. Of course, if you have the technical knowledge and see everything they're collecting on you, and like if you don't like it, then you can like change it or whatever. You get what I'm saying? Same thing with Linux, although Linux instead of a browser, it's an operating system.
Yeah,
So
and they're both free applications too.
yeah, yeah, they're both free. Well, and many open source things are free.
and
And
and that's beautiful. That's beautiful because it shows that they know that privacy, is a good thing.
yeah,
We should have privacy, and they give
yeah,
it to us for free, and that's a great
and
thing.
I feel like because I mean the only way because I mean if we go back to the beginning of the episode, the Google Incognito scandal, like like Google says that they don't track what's on Incognito, but obviously they lied. I mean, then you have the whole Prism program where they're sending all kinds of information to the government, and now there's new laws that might make end-to-end encryption illegal. Like at this point, really, the only way, really, for like in the near future, the only way to keep your privacy online would be to start using a lot more open source software compared to proprietary software.
Of course, and I agree with that.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Now, as it is, there does need to be like work on some different like open source like apps, for example. But there is more and more stuff happening in the open source community. If you understand what I'm saying.
yeah, I do, I do.
Yeah, and on top of it, a lot of it is good too. Like well, Brave browser, it's like I don't only use it because it's open source, but it's also like I like it's the one I like the most. Like the privacy, the security, but also like just like the design and some of the features and stuff.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
okay, when I first tried Brave, I mean,
mhm.
I don't have much knowledge of Brave, but when I did first use Brave, right, I had to it had a steep learning curve, like a small learning curve, but once you do learn it, it's quite easy to use.
Yeah, and also I mean yeah, there's all kinds of open source. Like for example, Linux. Now Linux does have its drawbacks. Like there's certain software you can't use on it. For example, Adobe Photoshop is a big one that a lot of people care about. Microsoft Office, I believe you can get it running on it, although it is difficult. But like just as like a personal use, like one like for non-professional reasons, like uh, Linux Mint completely open source since it's part of Linux, and so you can control what data it collects on you, and you can do all kinds of things. It's good for beginners because it looks and a lot like Microsoft Windows, so you already have like a familiar environment, and you can also run a lot of the apps that you regularly use. Like Chrome can run on it, Brave even can run on it. Discord can run on it. Like
Hmm.
all kinds of apps can run on it too, that you would normally use on your like on your normal laptop or PC.
Yeah, I mean, but there are also drawbacks to using Linux, though, right? I mean, most
Yeah,
games
that's what
don't run on Linux.
most what?
Most games don't run on Linux. I'm pretty sure, though.
Yeah, but it's been getting better.
Yeah, but yeah, most games don't run on Linux, but it's been getting better. More and more games are starting to run on Linux,
Yeah,
which is a good
yeah.
thing.
So there's like gaming specific distros and stuff. I think we're going a bit too much like into open source because that's
Yeah,
going to be probably the topic of our next podcast. But yeah, in order to like protect ourselves from these like protect our privacy, I think it's really important that we start using more open source software so we can see exactly what is being collected. And I mean, yeah, th- thankfully for us, there's a lot more good options because there was always open source options, but before they were not very good. Like a lot of people just would not like it because first the design would be bad, so a lot of people would have a hard time wrapping their head around it, and there just aren't as many features. But now we're getting very simplistic, like design open source software that's also very feature rich.
and that's good. And that's good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's where I'm gonna end. Do you have anything else to say before we end the podcast?
Yeah, to basically to wrap it out, we don't support communist countries. We don't support dictatorships, but we do
Mhm.
support the wanting to have a secure private conversation without having the government looking at us.
Yeah, or the government or other companies or hackers or anyone really.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
just basically the whole podcast is about privacy. We just support privacy and we believe in that form of privacy.
yeah, yeah. I feel like at the end we went a little bit too deep into open source, but
Yeah,
we'll talk about more about that inside our next podcast and like how it works more and stuff.
yeah, but yeah.
Okay, so yeah. On
Thank you
that
for
note,
yeah, thank you for listening to our podcast today.
yeah, if you made it this far, it's probably like I don't know a few hours long at this point. So yeah, thanks for listening. If you're still
Yeah,
listening,
and we
and yeah,
hope you have a great day.
yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye bye.